Something we have come to understand in our research is that the development boom in southern Ontario has created what some may consider to be a multi-million-dollar soil movement industry.
Since about 2007, we've seen an increasing number of large fill sites and associated volumes.
From our perspective, I mean, you know, being in the industry and being what it is, there's three things that we know for sure. There's going to continue to be construction projects and infrastructure projects, and there's going to continue to be contaminated soil and non-impacted soil, and that material needs to go somewhere.
Large fill operations have been moving into the countryside. This industry resembles the aggregate industry in both its operation and quantities of soils being moved. But they lack any regulatory controls, nor do they deploy consistent practices.
Many of these small municipalities don't have the knowledge or resources to understand managed fill sites, especially predominantly in the GTA, where most of the material getting dumped is, you know, keeps moving further and further north. And as development keeps moving further and further north, we sit there and we try and figure out, as trying to keep in a competitive marketplace and keeping the costs to a reasonable standard for developers, we have to understand, is it better for the environment to come up with a solution where we can dump material closer to the GTA, where it may be more populated, or does it make sense to put on double the dump trucks, triple the dump trucks to drive further and further away into remote areas? And then we have to balance, obviously, the quality of life issues for residents as these areas become more populated than they previously were.
The scope of this industry is unknown due to a blind eye approach that has been handed down to local municipalities and conservation authorities to manage. An assignment where municipalities have not even the knowledge tools, the skill sets, the technical support, or other resources to manage safe, responsible commercial fill deposits.
The jurisdiction is on the receiving end, right? It's only the Scugog, it's only the township here that gets it. It's not generating it, so that limits them what they can do. They can only play with the receiving end, and of course they are trumped if the Conservation Authority has jurisdiction.
This is a complex and costly practice for a municipality to monitor.
If you're talking about fill, you're talking about a problem. Fill is bad, dirt is bad, trucks are bad, dust is bad, smell is bad, contaminated chemicals bad. So there are a lot of problems in the industry right now.
I was not surprised when the township started to receive a number of inquiries and complaints from local residents about the earthworks operation on the property. I guess in one way we were fortunate that the site was very visible from the road. Their concerns were about noise, dust, traffic, impacts on the road, impacts on the environment, including wildlife habitat, the groundwater system, and the Oak Ridge's marine compliance.
The regulations are really a technical document in that they're very effective in addressing issues, again, around natural hazards and protecting features such as wetlands and watercourses. What the regulation is not very effective in is addressing what you might call public concerns. So these could include things such as consideration of the purpose of the placement of fill, what is the end land use, addressing impacts such as noise and dust, and even the whole issue about public notification. Again, the regulations are a very technical process. There actually is no provision for third-party involvement at all.
For some of the more contentious large fill sites we have seen, such as the one located adjacent to the seniors community in New Tecumseh, the sudden line of trucks that can number in the hundreds per day often catches neighbors and nearby communities by surprise. There is usually no public warning prior to the commencement of operations. So naturally, when you are living in an area that does not normally see that degree of industrial operation, the result is usually justified confusion by the community and a flurry of phone calls to the local planning authority. For the seniors in the New Tecumseh subdivision, the noise and dust has had considerable impacts on their day-to-day lives. Some residents have been driven from their homes as the noise and banging of tailgates becomes unbearable, while others remain indoors in order to gain some reprieve from the dust. Furthermore, the importation of contaminated soils has many citizens concerned that more aggregate sites may end up being used as dumping grounds for vast quantities of questionable fill, thereby posing an unacceptable risk to groundwater quality.
Now, whatever you put into old sand and gravel pits is what the water will flow through. If you have contaminants in the soil, you're in fact polluting a new site and potentially the water. In some cases, we're seeing fill with debris and with a clay-like texture. Could in fact the type of soil be used in some cases be considered hard surfacing and limit the permeable nature of the moraine and affect recharge? Well, honestly, we don't know, but we obviously feel this needs to be thoroughly analyzed and obviously considered. Now, with over 250,000 people on the moraine depending on well water, it would be completely disastrous if these aquifers are contaminated. I don't need to remind you, but many farms in the Greenbelt and the Oak Ridges Moraine depend on these aquifers and streams to provide clean, safe water for crops and livestock.
But there's a huge issue about the opportunities for unlawful activities. And people are on the edge of it. You know, I'm pretty confident that we can reasonably regulate the honest world of soil and fill. But let's be honest, I work for the Ministry of Environment. You can't regulate the mafia really easily. And they will take advantage of these things, because if it does cost thousands of dollars to get rid of a truckload of material, and if you've got 500 trucks a day coming into a property, and there's 501 trucks come in there, people hardly notice, right? So there is an issue about enforcement.
Loss of public trust is also a concern. There can be many contributing factors. Operating sites illegally or seeking permits only after getting caught without them does not instill much faith in the operations of those fill sites going forward. This particular site in Pickering was operating for months without a permit and was shut down after citizens brought it to the attention of city staff. Other times there is a blatant disregard for the law, as was the case here in Scugog, where operations remained active in a rehabilitated gravel pit despite the withdrawal of permission from the local authority.
Finally, the operation stopped and the operators moved on. This story is not finished, and so far there's no happy ending. Right now we have a site that's partially filled and looks quite unsightly. Almost 2 years have gone past, and we are still not aware of the status of the MOE order or the dirty dirt that was placed on that property. We have not lost sight of this at the Township, and we commit to moving forward and making it better.